This is one game away from being an NBA champ, being in the history of this game, being always there.
The spin move, the finish! Giannis Antetokounmpo with one of the most iconic performances in the storied history of the NBA Finals. And the slam from Antetokounmpo! The long wait has ended after a half century. The Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions once again. I'm at the top.
I wanted to do it here in the city. I wanted to do it with these guys. Did it.
That just makes me so happy. I can't even explain it. I might need to make a tray of baklava tonight in honor of Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Great final.
Oh my gosh, incredible. Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karen Rose. Hello, everybody. That is Stephen A. Smith. Good morning, Stephen A.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Excellent. Congrats to the Milwaukee Bucks, world champs. So Giannis Antetokounmpo was a man on a mission and mission accomplished. Behind 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks, he was named series MVP unanimously. The Bucks held off the Suns in Game 6 of the NBA Finals to capture the franchise's first championship in a half century. They did so in front of a sellout crowd, more than 17,000 fans inside the arena, along with 65,000 outside. Giannis, talk to me.
Don't let nobody tell you what you can be and what you cannot do. You know, people told me I can't make free throws. I made my free throws tonight, and I'm a freaking champion. I made them and I'm supposed to make them. You know, but I'm joking. Actually, I'm not, but this is an addicting feeling. Like, I love playing in the playoffs. I love playing in the finals. And I love playing with the ball is heavy. You know, and this is the moments I want to chase more. I want our team to keep build off this, you know, and hopefully we can do it again.
Giannis had 50 points, tied for the most in a finals-clinching win in NBA history. Look at the names on that list. MJ, Magic, Shaq. He also became the first player with 50, 10, and 5 in a playoff game since blocks were tracked. That was in the early 70s. Stephen A. Smith, you were in the building. Tell me this, sir. Thoughts on Giannis's performance?
I don't know if I've ever seen a better performance in an NBA Finals closeout game. I saw Magic Johnson drop 42 and 15 against the Philadelphia 76ers, playing center when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was out against the Philadelphia 76ers. I saw Michael Jordan drop 45 in that Game 6 when he crossed over Byron Russell and hit the jumper in his last game as a Chicago Bull to win his final championship. But I've never seen a performance in a closeout game for a championship that was better than what I witnessed last night. He was absolutely sensational, just dominant. He was a man amongst boys. Poor DeAndre Ayton, I mean, part of it was that he had no help on the front line, so he had to watch himself to some degree, but Giannis couldn't be guarded, and he certainly couldn't guard Giannis. And then Giannis is fighting coming downhill. He's attacking the basket. Every little lull that Milwaukee had, he'd answer the call himself and literally put the franchise on his back. Middleton didn't really have it last night for the first 3 quarters. Drew Holiday didn't have it at all, shot 1 for 11 in the first half. And Giannis said, to hell with all of that. We ain't going back to Phoenix. We ain't going back to the desert. We going to close this out tonight and put the franchise on his back and just willed them to a championship. It was as dominant a performance by a big that I had seen. And we're talking about Shaq, we're talking about Will Chamberlain, we're talking about Bill Russell, we're talking about all of these guys who were legitimate centers, which Giannis Antetokounmpo is not. But he damn sure looked like that last night. And in the end, what I walked away thinking about was, you know, how he stayed the course, the level of adversity. How many times, Max, did we lament during the playoffs, particularly when it came to somebody like Ben Simmons, how he didn't want the ball because he was scared of getting fouled and knew that he would have to go to the free throw line. Well, Giannis didn't care about the ridicule. He didn't care about the insults. He didn't care about the embarrassments or anything like that. He just wouldn't stop coming. And last night, they sent him to the free throw line. We're talking free throws with all the stuff, all the great things that happened last night. What you walked away with most was the fact that this dude, ridiculed ad nauseum throughout the postseason, went to the free throw line 19 times and made 17 free throws. That's 89.5% from the free throw line.
He
did it all. He did it all, and he's a worthy champion, and we just got to give him his props.
Yeah, Giannis was unbelievable last night. Let's keep in mind he hyperextended his knee in game 4 of the previous series, and it looked like at that moment he might be out for the playoffs. And in a year where AD went down and Kawhi went down and even LeBron was compromised and Harden wasn't there at first and Kyrie went down, Giannis not only got back, but got back and picked up where he left off. It wasn't just that he ended with 50 and 90% basically from the free throw line in a closeout game. But he strung together, 15 straight performances where this guy was just completely unstoppable. And we're in an era of bigs right now, quiet as kept. And I'm not even talking about KD, who's almost 7 feet, or LeBron, who's 260 pounds, because once upon a time, that would have qualified them as bigs. But they have perimeter player skills. I'm talking about, let's be honest, Giannis, back-to-back regular season MVPs, didn't win it a third straight time because there's fatigue giving it to him. So Jokic beat out Embiid. And when you say he's not really a center, Stephen A., but he's a big. He makes his living in the paint, and he can protect the rim. That's a big in my book, right? So it's Giannis, Jokic over Embiid. And in the finals, Giannis MVP this year, AD could have easily been MVP last year. We are in an era of kind of hybrid modern bigs right now, and Giannis might be the best among them. By the way, he's the face of the NBA right now and maybe the most likable superstar in sports.
So let's stay with that, because Max, is this form of Giannis, the one that made 17 of 19 free throws, 50 points, is he the best player in the world?
I can't say he's not. I think that LeBron James was the undisputed greatest player on earth. And I made the mistake because a couple years ago he got hurt. Given his age, given everything else, it's okay, he's not that anymore. Who's next? And the mistake was, well, no, he's not the undisputed champion anymore. Other guys can stake a claim, but you can't knock LeBron off the throne altogether until proven otherwise. LeBron, when last seen on the court, was as good as anyone and seems to always win the championship when he has half a chance. So you can't just discount him, even though given his age, injury recently and everything else, you can't say it's necessarily him either. Stephen A., that leaves KD and Giannis and also maybe Jokic or Embiid as the likely candidates. And given what I just said about the era of the big, and given where he ranks among everyone, he's not even 27, two-time regular season MVP, now finals MVP, defensive player of the year. He's one of the candidates. He's got as good a claim as anybody else at this moment.
Is that an answer to the question? Are you going to give a definitive answer to Molly's question? He's one of? Yes. I don't recall that being the question that Molly asked you.
Is the answer is
he the best player in the world?
Is he, in my opinion, the best player in the world? No. I would have him third at this moment, but I can't say that definitively. We don't have proof. He might be the best player in the world. KD didn't have a supporting cast. LeBron didn't have a supporting cast. We'll see next year. The championship right now is divided. He's got a piece.
Okay, well, I apologize for being a bit terse or whatever the case may be. I was up all night. It was a championship, and it took me about 3 hours to get 2 miles back to the hotel, for crying out loud, because the city was packed. You'll have to forgive me. But I will tell you this. I still shouldn't be exposed to the drivel that you just pulled out. Giannis is awesome. Giannis is a superstar. Giannis is a champion. And on this day of all days, I'm certainly not trying to throw any shade whatsoever. But don't come to me telling me he's the best player in the world. The answer is hell no. He's not. He's a very dominant big man presence. He's a man amongst boys because he's built, like a chiseled brick house, gaining 60 pounds of muscle since he got into the NBA. He was a man amongst boys because you didn't have a formidable front line. DeAndre Ayton had to stay out of foul trouble. Plus, he's young and he looked like a petrified puppy out there. And he was the big man in the small man's contest as far as I'm concerned last night. But when we talk about skills and what a brother brings to the table, this dude ain't on KD's level. I don't want to hear that. He's not Kevin Durant.
Well,
let's stop that right now.
The question is this version of Giannis. This version of Giannis hit 90% of his free throws.
Hold on, wait a minute. I know what the hell the question was. I'm answering it. I'm not you. I didn't dance and moonwalk
so you don't get
or
it right?
rap. I'm answering the question directly. I don't give a damn what you saw last night. He's not better than Kevin Durant. What Giannis did last night definitely deserves to be applauded. But one of the biggest reasons we have to applaud him is because of what we saw was such an aberration for him as it pertains to the free throws is what I'm talking about. That ain't nothing for Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant shot 17 for 19 from the free throw line, we'd be like, damn, he missed 2 free throws. That's what we'd be like. We wouldn't think about the 17 he made. We think about the 2 he missed because he normally doesn't miss them. He's a career 85% plus shooter from the free throw line.
Right,
he's a career 28-point per game scorer. He's a sniper, long range, 6'11" with a 7'6" wingspan. Giannis ain't that dude. Giannis is great. Giannis is a champion. He is somebody that has elevated himself to being one of the preeminent faces in the National Basketball Association. No question about that. I give you that. He's top 3. I even agree with you there. You want to go there? That's fine. But we need to talk about knocking guys like Kawhi or others off the pedestal. When we're talking about the best in the game of basketball, resumes do matter. It doesn't matter what just happened immediately because of the plethora of injuries you yourself pointed to, Max. We've got guys that have been injured and has been out, and we don't hold that against them. We don't use that as an excuse to knock them off the pedestal. We wouldn't be calling Giannis less than great if Giannis couldn't play in the NBA Finals because of that hyperextended right knee that he suffered. So we got to ultimately look at their resume and their skill set. And when it comes to skills, especially with those Beetlejuice eyes of yours, I keep telling you about that. The one man on this planet that does not need glasses is you. To sit up there and talk about him as the best in the world, I appreciate the fact that you just said he's top 3, but he's in the discussion. No, he ain't better than Kevin Durant.
Well,
let's pump those brakes.
Look, first of all, if we assume he's a 90% free throw shooter, I don't think we can assume that. But assuming what we saw last night is him, like if you can't put him on the line, if you can't put Giannis on the line as a strategy, good luck, because he has gotten better since the guy who won 2 MVPs under pressure. He can find the open man better than he ever could. He doesn't have to initiate the offense every time. But also you have to consider this. What he said at the podium last night when he hit, he says, I could have gone somewhere and joined a super team. I don't think he was talking about KD. Might have been talking about a teammate of KD. But it could apply to KD. He didn't go and chase the ring. He stayed right where he was. He got lucky that Brooklyn got hurt, but no one's beating a team with KD, Harden, and Kyrie all healthy. That's not on Giannis. That's just no one could do it. So he got to look. But he also got hurt, played through it, came back, played huge, hit his free throws, and didn't ring chase. It all adds up. Like, he doesn't have guard skills and perimeter skills that KD has. That's true. But he has other stuff that KD doesn't have in the paint. He is with KD and LeBron in the conversation.
I just think that America needs to know the only reason I'm having this conversation with you is because I'm obligated to do so because we're doing First Take. Because if you were somebody on the street that brought up the same argument, I'd walk the hell away from you and simply ignore you because it makes no sense. The fact of the matter is that the discussion about the validity or the authenticity of a particular championship is a separate subject. If you want to talk about one ring chasing compared to the other, that's a different discussion, and I concede that. I understand that. I'm talking talent. I'm talking watching the game of basketball and seeing what a brother does from a skilled position.
Then of course KD is more skilled.
He's not on KD's
Yeah, but there were more skilled players than Shaq, too. There were more skilled players than Shaq, but none of them were better than Shaq. So you call Shaq, for example, the most dominant. That's really a way of just saying he's the most effective. That's another way of saying he's the best. And KD has more skills. But you know what KD hasn't done? KD hasn't shown that he could take a team that's just in the mix, not a dominant team, and win a championship. Giannis just did. Giannis just did that.
Max, zip it, bro. Because your argument goes right out the window because just days ago, you were getting on everybody talking about how lucky Milwaukee was because of the plethora of injuries. You literally said on the air that this championship you wouldn't attach an asterisk to it if you had to, but ultimately you pointed out how one injury after another got in the way to somewhat give fodder to the, wait a minute, I heard you, listen, you said those things. So what I'm trying to say is ignore all of that. Forget all of that for a second. Just focus on the skill. That's what this conversation is about.
But
and
sometimes the more skilled player's not as good.
No. What happens is you change the narrative and you change the subject for your liking. I don't particularly have any interest in that discussion. I'm talking from a basketball skilled perspective.
That's your
Giannis
definition.
is phenomenal. He is great, but he ain't Kevin Durant.
Right. So if we have this debate,
guy.
If we have this debate according to your definition of what best means, which incidentally is incorrect, then of course you're going to win the debate. But the most skilled player is not always the best player. For example, there were many more skilled players than
Joe.
No, you time out.
First take is on the television. Look at the bottom line. Giannis, the best player on the planet. That was the question.
Was the best
I answered the question.
Shaq was the best player on the planet, even when he wasn't the most skilled, because he was most physically dominant. You and I agree. If you make me order them right now, I would say LeBron, KD, Giannis. But I can't prove that. Giannis is right there with them. And best means the most effective. And the most skilled player is not the most effective if someone else can impose
so Max
their
Kellerman
physical
is on
will.
national television telling people what the definition of best is.
No, you are.
It's really a damn shame I have to talk basketball with you.
I'm just correcting your definition.
Really is. Molly asked a specific question. I answered the question, and then you want to change it up to mean whatever the hell you're talking about. I'm just saying, look at KD against Giannis from a skilled basketball perspective.
Right, that's not what Molly
there's
asked.
Nothing to talk about.
Right, that's not what Molly asked.
That's all I said.
No, what you did was offer your definition of best. I offered a competing and better definition, and now you're claiming that my definition doesn't count. No, in fact, my definition is better.
Now you're lying to the American public.
Let me ask you a question. Answer the question, because it's not rhetorical.
When it comes to basketball, there's nothing that you utter out of your mouth that's remotely even on my level.
It's not rhetorical. This is a real question.
Honest with you.
Were there more skilled players than Shaq when Shaq was in his prime?
Excuse me?
Were there more skilled players than Shaq when Shaq was in his prime?
Well, that depends on how you look at it.
Were there more skilled players, yes or no?
Because you're 7'1". You're 7'1". Yes, you dunked on people. But did you see Shaq's agility, his mobility, his athleticism,
has agility
his
and mobility
post moves, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah, I thought there was a couple of players more skilled than Shaq.
Right.
Absolutely.
More skilled, but it matter.
Okay, because now we're debating the definition of better. So let's move on here. So as for the Suns and Chris Paul, they've lost their 3 NBA finals. And still looking for the franchise's first championship, Chris Paul became the first player to lose 4 best-of-7 series in which his team led 2-0. He's one of 5 players ever with 10 or more All-NBA selections without winning an NBA title, alongside Hall of Famers Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, John Stockton, and Elgin Baylor. Here's CP3.
It'll take a while to process this or whatnot, but it's the same mentality. Get back to work. You know what I mean? I ain't retiring, if that's what you're asking. That's out. So, back to work. Nobody probably expected us to be where we are except for us, but excuse me, it is what it is. Like I said, all season long with our team ain't no moral victories.
Stephen A., do you think Chris Paul's legacy is taking a hit after these finals?
No. I don't think it's elevated, but I don't think it took a hit because even though there was a couple of games he certainly could have played better, and he ended up losing in the NBA Finals. Last night in Game 6, he was the best player on the court for the Phoenix Suns. He showed up. Devin Booker, God bless him, because I got a lot of love for that kid, and I think he's got a bright future. He didn't show up to his capabilities. Mikal Bridges was a no-show. Crowder wasn't that effective offensively, even though his numbers ended up decent. DeAndre Ayton looked absolutely petrified. He was bobbling rebounds. He was bobbling passes into the interior. He wasn't himself. Cameron Johnson is somebody that was not embraced as far as I'm concerned. I thought he spent a lot of time being ignored for most of this series, not to my liking. And then last night when you needed him to deliver, he couldn't do it as well. And I'm looking at a 36-year-old miniature guard at 6 feet, devoid of the athleticism that, a lot of these guards have. And he went out there and he got them to Game 6 of an NBA Finals. Again, his stock was not elevated because he ultimately lost in the NBA Finals and lost 4 straight games after being up 2-0. And it's the 4th time in his playoff in his career that he's lost a 2-0 lead in the postseason, which is the most in history. We get all of that. But in the end, if he had wet the bed, if he had played like garbage, if he had not showed up to do what he could, that would be different. There were times last night I wished he would have been a bit more aggressive shooting the basketball, but they had clearly made the decision, we going to live and die with Booker, and they kept giving Booker the ball. But in the end, Chris Paul ended up being their best player on the court in Game 6. And because of that reality, I look at him and I don't say it's diminished. I just say it's stagnant. It's not going anywhere. It certainly wasn't elevated. And that's what the reality is for me.
Okay, now, I want you to stay with me here. I want your cranky self this morning who hasn't slept in a month to stay with me here, because I want to hear your response to this.
Okay.
He has hurt. His legacy was hurt. And this is what I mean. Chris Paul is a brilliant player, the perfect point guard, point god. But there have been many collapses in the playoffs in the past. And you can come up with plausible excuses for many of them. But still, he was usually the best player on the team. And the one time he wasn't, he got hurt and couldn't play in Game 7. So this was a legacy swing series for Chris Paul. He was about to hurt his legacy heading into Game 6 of the conference finals, but they would have lost in Game 7. It would have been terrible for Chris Paul because they're playing better without him. But he saved it by having an all-time great Game 6. Puts him in the finals. Stephen A. didn't play well in these finals by and large. And we can't judge it in a static way compared to where he was, because either there's another piece of evidence that he couldn't get it done, or there's a piece of evidence that demolishes everything that came before. He got it done. He had a blunder at the end of Game 5. It was a blunder. Maybe they don't win anyway, but it was absolutely a blunder. And as much as you're absolutely
Game 4 too, Max.
Yeah,
Game 4
right.
too.
Yeah, but as much as you're absolutely right about DeAndre Ayton looking petrified and a lot of guys not showing up, actually Chris Paul looked really tight to me, especially in the first half of that game, especially early. They all looked tight, including their leader, who is Chris Paul, who sets the tone. And so, once again, what people will point to is Chris Paul had games where he blew it, where he didn't step up in the playoffs. It gives me no pleasure to say this. I love Chris Paul. I was rooting for him to win this game openly. Even though I'm supposed to be impartial, I couldn't help but to root for him. But the fact is, once again, he didn't get it done. Once again, in high leverage moments, his team that had a lead collapsed. And he didn't play poorly in the final game of the series, as it turns out, but he didn't save the day either. So I think this is another little piece of evidence that overall people will point to and say, there is a reason he's not a champion.
I won't summarily dismiss that perspective, nor will I say that you're being unfair or disrespectful to him. What I would say is that there is a reality that has to be embraced. This is not the Clippers when he had Lob City with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, and they were up 3-2 on the Houston Rockets, and James Harden was on the bench. And Houston still went on a 49-9 run to win that Game 6 at the Staples Center and ultimately won Game 7 back at the Toyota Center in Houston. This was a Milwaukee Bucks team that all of us walked into the series, with the exception of you, and it's not to knock you because you had a good point about what you were saying about the Suns. But the reality is that if Giannis Antetokounmpo was healthy, we weren't picking the Phoenix Suns. We knew that if Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak, were healthy, they were bigger, they were stronger, they were more athletic, they would attack the basket, and they would attack the thinness of the Phoenix Suns, particularly on their front line. You're talking about a point guard who's a quintessential point guard who made his bones about being from being a floor general, running a team and maximizing the potential around him. But when those other guys can't do but so much because they simply are outmanned, which the Phoenix Suns were, that is going to be taken into consideration as well, because we all knew that if Giannis could be back healthy, the Milwaukee Bucks were going to win this
Not disagreeing with that.
Finals appearance in NBA history that led him to winning Finals MVP. He's just the third player ever to win MVP, Finals MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year in his career, joining Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon. NBA champion Kendrick Perkins, kind enough to join us now. Big Perk, good to see you as always, sir. We'll get you on the screen in just a second. I'll get to you in a second, Perk. Stephen A., is this the best closeout performance in Finals history?
It's right there. It's hard for me to eclipse Jordan's 45 because it was a game-winning shot. It was pressure. It was on the road. against a loaded Utah Jazz team, and Michael Jordan delivered the goods. I got one of my boys, a champ based out of Detroit. I'm about to block him for the entire summer because he thinks he knows
What's
basketball.
Up, champ?
And he's one of those guys. It's important to mention his name because he's so starving for attention when it comes to the sport of basketball. Kendrick Perkins, Max Kellerman, Molly. His name is Champ. He's based out of that. He texts me more than my daughters when it comes to the sport of basketball. Just an annoying ass person. I'm getting ready to block him for the whole damn summer.
You do need sleep.
By the way, these are his friends.
I love him, but when you get on my nerves, you know how I am. Max can speak to that from a level of expertise. But it's just ridiculous. He's the same guy that had Mike. He said that he wouldn't even have LeBron James in the top 10. So So his credibility just goes out of the window right there.
All right, Champ. Come on, Champ. Get it together.
Done.
Champ's not even the top 10 contender.
It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, Michael Jordan being on the road, obviously that's a very, very big deal. Dropping 45, crossover, game-winning shot, epic, memorable, the whole bit. But Giannis was just so dominant last night. I don't think that any of us are in a position to look at an NBA Finals closeout game and say, oh, this performance was better or that performance was better. It might have been aesthetically better when you look at Jordan and the crossover and the pose that we still hold on to more than 20 years later, and stuff like that. Magic Johnson, filling in for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, playing center against Caldwell Jones and Darryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder and people like that in the early 80s. We get all of that. But Giannis last night was so unstoppable. And to see him just shred all the critics, all the cynicism, the vitriol that was being thrown in his direction where people anticipated that, he was going to miss his free throws. If he had just made shots from the field, then that would be one thing. But to do it by hitting 17 of 19 free throws when the guy, just struggles to hit free throws so flagrantly so, that's the kind of stuff that seals the deal and makes you say, hey.
Before I make my point.
I can't put anything above it.
Question. You got on me in the very first segment because when asked if he is the best player in the world, I said Giannis can't be just dismissed from the conversation. Push come to shove, I put him third, but the title is disputed. Now, are you turning around and doing the same thing here? Or are you saying, yes, this is the best performance in a closeout game? Is it just in the conversation or is it where do you rank it?
I said to you that I can't put anything above Jordan's 45.
Okay, so it's not the best.
Perkins, did I not say that? Did I not say that,
the best? Okay, so it's not the best. I agree it's not the best. It is not the best. I feel the same way about this as I feel about Giannis's status in the league. I don't put it as number one, but it's in the conversation. Let me tell you the ones that are better. You identified a couple. Magic Johnson, as a rookie, he was 19 when he entered the league that year, jumped at center and gave you 42, 15, and 7 in the finals. I can't put this above that. I just can't do it. Especially context matters. Everyone got hurt. Like, the Bucks were not going to be in the finals if the Brooklyn Nets weren't hurt. They were getting smoked. They would have lost in 3 if the Nets were healthy. They wouldn't even gotten to a fourth game. They were losing by 20-something points a game, and they didn't even have Kyrie and Harden. It was just one or the other of them. Come on. So context matters. You bring up Jordan's game, I don't have to go up. I don't have to go over that again. Let me give you the one that's actually number one. Number one is Clyde Frazier, and I didn't see it, Stephen A. Maybe you did. I wasn't born yet. Clyde Frazier in the 69-70 season, it was his 1970 finals, went up, because as you always say, Stephen A., context matters. It wasn't that the team he was playing was lucky to get there or the Knicks were lucky to get there. He went up against a team with Wilt, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor, who was supposed to beat the Knicks. That's 3 still, people could argue, top 10 or 15 greatest players who ever lived on the same team. Clyde Frazier in a closeout, game 7, not game 6, against that team, not a Suns team that was also lucky that both LA teams got hurt, gave you 36, 19, and 7. That is the greatest closeout performance of all time. Giannis is in that conversation with Jordan, Magic, and Clyde, but it's not number one.
Well, look, no disrespect to all the all-time greats because we have seen a lot of great performances and a lot of guys saying, Stephen A., I saw you tweet out and say, don't throw Ayton the ball. He looked petrified. He looked terrified or whatever the case may be. He did because it was the presence of Giannis down there, embracing that center role. He walking, he's stepping into three-pointers, knocking them down. And here's the knock that we all have had on Giannis. When it matters the most in those crucial moments in the fourth quarter, can he deliver? And last night, he did just that. Whether it was from the free throw line or getting to the basket or making the block shots that was really needed at the time, he did that in every aspect. And this is why I say it was the greatest closeout performance in NBA history and finals history.
Let's say something. Let's point out something, KP. I'm not going to let you get away with something here. I understand that Giannis could be intimidating. Giannis was a man on fire last night. Don't act like you don't know when certain cats, the moment itself is just too much for them. Now, we know good and damn well that Ayton bobbling the ball even when he was rebounding, looking like he had grease on his hands. I don't know what the hell it was. You know good and damn well that wasn't just about Giannis. That was about a closeout game in Milwaukee, and we had a young brother whose youth was exposed, and he was scared to death. That's number one.
Yeah, but
number two, I want to say this, though. When we look at Giannis, here's what I want everybody to appreciate. When we criticized Giannis in the past, it was because he didn't have the combination of a perimeter shot and free throw shooting ability. We've never accused him of being scared. No one has ever accused Giannis of being scared. We thought that he played bully ball. He pushed you downhill. He had momentum, and he knew how to finish at the basket. But if you kept him away from the basket like Kawhi Leonard did, it would be problematic for him. What makes it impressive last night is that, okay, you still might not have had a perimeter shot, but you was hitting a couple of them last night, even hit a three. A turnaround jumper in the lane, too. A fall away 15-foot shot. He hit that. Plus, he hit his free throws. So last night was his night, but the free throw shooting was really what sealed the deal because you had to be brave in order to put yourself in that position because you know how you struggle from the free throw line, and he didn't care. And that's where he has to be applauded for his greatness last night because he faced adversity and said, I don't give a damn. Here I come.
Yeah, and look, Max, Stephen A., let me tell y'all something. As a stage outside, you see all the fans, you feel the atmosphere, and you're walking into the arena. You see all the media, and you happen to take a glimpse to your left or to your right. You see the champagne right there. You see all the things. The trophy is sitting somewhere where you can see it. It's in your presence. That is it. That's in the back of your mind. Like as a player, that's in the back of your mind. And when we started that game last night, everybody on the court looked rattled except for Giannis. Everybody looked rattled. Honestly, I thought we was looking at a JV high school game last night, the way that guys were playing and clanking off the side of the rim and shooting air balls and turning over the ball. Everybody was doing that except Giannis. And for him to complete the mission with a 50-piece wing dinner spicy, along with those 5 blocks and dominating on the defensive side of things, it was just a hell of a performance. One of the greatest I've seen, the greatest.
Perk, you just made the point I was going to make, so I'll just add this because everyone, I agree, everyone looked shook. The whole Phoenix Suns team, including Chris Paul, Devin Booker, looked tight early, right? I just need to we have to bring up Bill Russell if we're talking about closeout games. He was Mr. Game 7. Bill Russell, and you, a former Celtic, Kendrick Perkins should appreciate this. Game 7, 1962 against the Lakers, went for 30 points and 44 boards in one game. So
did you see the game, Max?
Of course not. We're talking about.
Did you see the tape of the game? Did you see the tape of the game?
I have not watched that game. No.
Well, that would be, Max, why we didn't mention it.
No, we didn't say that you've ever seen. I didn't see.
I'm just saying that one would deduce that we want something we saw.
But it did occur. It did occur. Like, let's put it this way: can we let this segment go by without mentioning Bill Russell? We got to.
Then why didn't you mention Bob Pettit? Bob Pettit dropped 50 in a closeout game against the Celtics in 1958. How come you didn't mention that, Max?
We can mention a lot of guys, but
right.
Bill Russell got to be mentioned.
We got to go to break. The Nets open as next season's titles favorites, followed by the Lakers and then the Bucks. Everybody needs a victory.
But this is the hard way to do it, and this is the way. And we did it. We did it, man.
I need his energy right now. I need his intensity. Big Perk back here with us. Max, let me ask you this, and I was looking forward to this debate all show. What would you rather have? Would you rather have KD's 2 rings with the Warriors, joining a super team, or, quote, do it the right way and have 1 ring like Giannis?
This is a trick question. It's Giannis by so much. It's by so much. And I say that even after saying they were lucky that KD and Harden and Kyrie weren't all healthy together. And that Kawhi got hurt in the West, and that AD got hurt in the West. Yes, they were lucky, but you know why? Because if you put Kyrie, Harden, and KD on the same team, you've constructed a can't-lose team. The rings that KD won are even worse than that. He joined a 73-win team, the all-time record, that already won 1 championship, that came within a shot of winning another championship. They couldn't lose at that point. When you create a situation where you can't lose, you don't prove the same kind of things. We already know that KD is very skilled, as Stephen A. said. But you don't prove the other stuff we really want to know about, what a championship tells us about your grit, about your determination, about your ability to overcome obstacles, because there are no obstacles if you put an MVP caliber player onto 73. Not only that, the death lineup in 2015 that the Warriors ran out, Harrison Barnes was the weakest link. They exchanged their weakest link. They replaced it with the strongest link in the NBA other than LeBron. They replaced Harrison Barnes in the death lineup that was considered invincible with Kevin Garnett. So, yeah, guess what? Garnett won back-to-back finals MVPs. I don't think he deserved both of them. LeBron deserved at least one of those. But you know why? Because you have too much to worry about on that team. Who's going to stop Kevin Durant? You got to worry about Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and then have Iguodala and Draymond Green too. It's ridiculous. Of course you can. Giannis, when he hit the podium and said the right way, stayed right where he was, took a cast of non-superstars, 2 quasi-stars, almost stars, and won a championship with a string of performances as good as any we've ever seen in the playoffs, and capped it with a 50-point night that makes us question today, is this the greatest closeout performance ever? His 3rd 40-plus double-digit rebound night in the same series. Yes, Giannis's ring means more, and everybody knows it.
Well, you could say it means more, Max Kellerman, and I'm not going to refute that. But what I would tell you to answer the question directly is that I'm sorry if this isn't a direct answer, but it's a matter of preference. I think about LeBron, who really started all of this when we talk about super teams being assembled. Or you could actually start it in Boston, because I thought that was a super team that Kendrick Perkins was on when you got KG, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Rondo. I mean, damn, that's lethal. But let's start with LeBron. So let's see. I'm here in Giannis, and I'm in Milwaukee, and it's my team, and I stayed here, and I got Drew Holiday and Middleton, and we go through trials and tribulations. It's my team, but, ultimately I carry us to a championship, which is a very legitimate and authentic thing, and it's special. When I think about LeBron, I'm thinking about D. Wade as my teammate. I'm thinking about Bosh. I'm thinking about that second go-round, how Ray Allen joined the squad. And I'm thinking about the fact that I'm in South Beach. I don't mind that. That's not a problem that I have. I think that's a beautiful thing. Okay? And then on top of it all, everywhere I go on the road, it's like the Beatles have showed up, Max. It's like the Beatles have come to town and all of that stuff, and we're the story. I kind of like that. You understand what I'm saying?
Showing
we've been
your true
number 1 in the morning
colors
for 9 years. I kind of like that. Then we transition to KD. And KD, I didn't like the move to Golden State. We all know that I'm on the record with that. But I throw it, Max, to a dude from 35 feet away from the basket, and it's like hitting layups. And, oh, by the way, he ain't the only dude that I can throw it to from 35 feet away from the basket, and it's like a layup. And oh, by the way, Max Kellerman, Kendrick Perkins could tell you this, that crowd inside of the Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin last night was electrifying. I mean, it was something special to be a part of, to be in there, to hear that roar of the crowd. And it's even more special when we consider the fact that we're just coming off of COVID, or we're still in the throes of COVID, but you know what I'm saying in terms of last year bubble play compared to what it is now. But Max, it wasn't the Oracle. You've been to the Oracle.
Yeah.
You were there for Game 7.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is this. It's about preference, my brother. I understand I'm not taking anything away from Giannis and what you said, but if you talking to me, KP, about preference, well, let's see. It's the Oracle with two of the greatest shooters, the greatest shooting backcourt that we've ever seen, or rock star treatment, and my home turf is South Beach. I'm sorry, but as a matter of preference, I have no problem with LeBron or KD in that regard. I would have preferred that. That's just me.
Well, here it is, right? When you talk about super teams and you talk about guys like KD, you talk about guys like Braun, you even could talk about the 08 Celtics, right? The thing is this, okay, you go and join a super team or you form a super team, I get that part, but it's still a hard thing, Max. And the thing I didn't like what you said was it's not even close, and it is close because when you form a super team, it's so much pressure. It's on you. Eyes are on you to actually deliver a championship. Now, we could go back to the Lakers when they had three-peated, and then they added, I know he was old at the time, McCall Malone and the Gary Payton, and we could consider that as a super team, and we saw that they didn't get it done. They ran through everybody in the postseason until they got up against the bad boys from Detroit, the new generation, and Chauncey Billups and Rasheed Wallace. But here it is, my did done. So I would take Giannis just because of how he did it and the journey that he went through. Now, to add one more part to that, here it is, we have to remember, sometimes when guys do form with super teams and they go other places, they still have in the back of their mind that they have unfinished business at that other place. That's why LeBron James went back to Cleveland. That's why LeBron James will tell you the Cleveland championship probably meant more to him than any other championship because he delivered it in the place he was drafted in his hometown.
Well, I just want to make a distinction here, guys, because Stephen A., you brought up, and I know what you mean about lifestyle and your preferences, but you brought up the Miami squad. I would have given KD more credit for this Brooklyn win, even though they still have the most talent, because throwing guys together is harder than it's harder to win that first year, as we saw in Miami, than it is like what KD did was different, guys. The Boston Celtics with the team that you were on, Perk, Garnett was an MVP level player. But Pierce and Ray Allen weren't. Let's just be honest. They were all-star level players. And
Hall of Famers. They Hall of Famers.
Yeah, but there's a difference. But you could say, who's better, this guy or that guy? The MVP level is better than the all-star level. Pierce and Ray Allen are Hall of Famers. There are higher levels of player. Like, for example, Kevin Garnett. That was what the Warriors had. They had an MVP player in Steph. They had an all-star in Clay, an all-star in Dre, a great player in Iguodala, and they added to a team that was already functioning, an MVP all-time great in his prime. That is completely different than what all these other circumstances are. That's why those rings, to me, it's like you couldn't not win. How do you not win if they just won 73 games, came a play away, and then you add KD? That's different than LeBron. That's a super-duper team. It's different.
Well, let me say a couple of things. Number one, Paul Pierce was called the truth for a reason, because he closed. Number two, Ray Allen, I would remind you that if it wasn't for the exceptionalism of Steph Curry, I would remind you that the all-time three-point king would be Ray Allen. This brother was something special. And by the way, I just recently heard he was in some kind of bike accident or whatever. I hope he's all right. Nothing but the best to that brother. I love Ray Allen. So I want to say that. The other thing that I will say to you is this. Again, Giannis did it the right way. He did it the Jordan way. He did it the Kobe way. He did it the Tim Duncan way. We get all of that. We understand that, okay? And I'm not taking anything away from him. But I would like to point out that this season, above many, many others, has proven just because you assemble something doesn't mean that it necessarily works out. Look at what happened to the Brooklyn Nets. So the point that I'm trying to make to you is that we can point to injury, Max, but when other things come into the equation, like you coming into camp out of shape, or if you Kyrie, you thinking you...
committing 13 turnovers and shooting worse from inside and outside the arc. And the Suns' performance dropped as well, losing 4 straight to close out the finals. Phoenix shot 30% or worse from deep in 3 of the final 4 games. Kendrick Perkins back with us. Stephen A., another disappointing end to the season for CP3. Is this it for him? Has his championship window officially closed?
I think so. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. And who knows, he could end up departing from Phoenix because remember, he's got a player option scheduled to be paid $44 million this year, but he can opt out and get a 2-year deal at about $70 million, a 3-year deal at about $100 million. You just never know with the money that's out there where he could end up. But assuming that he stays put, even though I expect Phoenix to make some noise, because I believe in them, I just think that the West is getting stronger and stronger. Kawhi's probably going to stay with the Clippers. Unless that changes, they'll be formidable. We know that we believe the Suns would have lost to them if Kawhi had not gotten hurt. Anthony Davis and LeBron James will be back. We don't know where Damian Lillard's going to be moved to. Klay Thompson is expected to be back healthy. And you know, him and Steph will be there as well. Plus, they got 2 first-round picks, 2 top 15 picks in the upcoming NBA draft. And so I look at all of those things and I just say to myself, you know, to be 36 years of age, to be the best player on the court for the Phoenix Suns last night, to be in your 16th year, to be this close, and for this opportunity to slip through your fingers, you just found yourself thinking that this was CP3's lone chance, because I just brought up the West. I didn't bring up Brooklyn in the East. I didn't bring up Milwaukee in the East. I didn't bring up Philly in the East. I didn't bring up Atlanta in the East. Who knows who could end up in Miami? I didn't bring that up. I just think that it's too much of a daunting task to expect that at this point in time in his career that there's another opportunity laying down the road for CP3. I think it came and it went last night.
Yeah, probably. But you have to acknowledge, given how long guys are playing nowadays, given how well Chris Paul played this year, and given the fact that he could always ring chase, although Giannis boxed these dudes with what he said last night, like it's going to be a little bit harder for them to save face ring chasing now. But given that he could purchase it, he could say, all right, I'm going to take a little less money and go, or a lot less money and go join the Lakers, for example. But his championship window has closed with this Suns team, and in a larger way has probably closed. In other words, I don't think Chris Paul's future is one in which he is one of, let's say, the 2 best players on a championship team. If you hang around long enough, you can be a nice addition to a team that will win a championship without being the best or maybe not the second best player on the team eventually. This, you pointed it out in the Western Conference. Golden State is going to be back next year to what they were pre-Durant, which is not what they were with Durant, but it was pretty damn good. It was great, in fact. The Lakers, if AD and LeBron stays healthy, I still like them better than everyone else. I don't think Kawhi is going to be there next year, given the nature of his injury, at least not as Kawhi Leonard until maybe later in the season, maybe not even then. Time will tell, but we don't even need to talk about the Clippers. Jamal Murray with the Nuggets, that's a whole lot, guys. Nuggets keep getting better. The Utah Jazz, if they stay healthy, the reason they had such a golden opportunity this year is because they were the healthiest team in the Western Conference. AD went down, LeBron was compromised, but AD went down, Jamal Murray wasn't there, and then Kawhi went down. He didn't play against them. That's why they got out of the West. This was Chris Paul's shot. That's why I thought so much of his legacy was riding on his play in games 5 and 6 to get to a game 7. And that's why I was rooting for him so hard, and I'm so disappointed today and sad for him. Guys, he could still wind up with a ring. But we all know what we mean when we say, like, he won a ring. We mean when he was a great, great player. when he had a team and was in the nucleus of the best players on the team. And I think that ship has sailed unless he really hardcore ring chases this upcoming season.
Well, I wouldn't say that. It all depends on what CP3 wants, right? I think that window is still open, and it all depends on what direction he want to go. Is he about his money, or he's about going get trying to get an actual ring? And Max, one thing I do agree with you on, he's not a first or second option guy right now. We saw that not going deep into the playoffs. He could get you through the regular season. He's a third option guy when it comes down to winning the championship. And I think, if he consider maybe join the Los Angeles Lakers, I think then that ups his chances. When you look at the Western Conference right now, you mentioned Jamal Murray. He's coming off an ACL injury. And as a guy that came off an ACL injury, yes, you are able to get back on the court 7 months later, but you're not at your full strength 100% from where you were till like 21 months later. And these are facts. And so when you look at the Western Conference and when you look at Kawhi Leonard possibly being out for the entire season, the West is really wide open. And the Lakers still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis and still could add pieces. You add a CP3 to that team, I think they'll be a heavy favorite to coming out of the Western Conference. And then after that, you let the chips fall where they may. You could rely on the healthy Anthony Davis. We saw what he was capable of doing when he was healthy, when he helped lead the Los Angeles Lakers to a championship, the type of numbers he was putting up during that run. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that the window is closed for CP3. It's on CP3 what's next for him and what he wants for us towards the end of his career, because Gary Payton won the championship late in his career when we thought the window had closed when he went down to South Beach.
Well, I will tell you this. Gary Payton was a contributor, but we rarely ever acknowledge Gary Payton as a champion. And that's not to take anything away from him. It's just that the Gary Payton that we saw in Miami, the Gary Payton that we saw in L.A. was not the Gary Payton we saw in Seattle. The glove that'll put you in lockdown mode and was clearly the star of that franchise along with Sean Kemp. But I would tell you this, another component that we can't ignore is where Damian Lillard is going to end up, because obviously that could be another roadblock for CP3 as well, depending on where Damian Lillard ends up going, particularly if he stays in the Western Conference. In the end, what it comes down to is that there's nothing wrong with CP3 not being a 1 or 2 option, because as a quintessential point guard, he really isn't supposed to be anyway. He's supposed to be the guy that sets up opportunities for other guys so they can shine as 1 and 2 options. But he hasn't had that available to him. And unless he joins a franchise where that possibility is there for him, I don't see how he's going to win the championship with the multitude of teams that are legitimate, bona fide championship contenders.
Well, here's one way. Here's one way, Stephen A. I think the odds are slim, but it could happen. He's playing at a very high level. And nowadays, guys play later into their careers than they used to. If he can keep this up for 3 or 4 more years, more or less, let's say he didn't leave the Suns, Booker will get better. You could see how hungry he was after the game. Like, he's going to learn from this experience. Ayton will get better. So maybe, even if there are at least 3 or 4 teams at least as good as them, if you take enough bites at the apple, one of those years they'll break through, maybe get a little lucky again with injury. That's possible. I want to say something about the Lakers. If CP3 opts out and signs for a deal that the Lakers can afford, because they're capped out otherwise, right? CP3, LeBron, and AD is the only possible answer for a healthy Nets team. I want to be very clear about this. The Nets this year, had they been healthy, would have smoked the NBA. No one would have gotten, I don't think anyone gets 2 games off them. I don't even know if the Lakers were healthy. The Lakers would have gotten 2. But with CP3, LeBron, and AD can counteract Kyrie, Harden, and KD. I don't know who wins, but that's an even matchup.
The problem with what you're saying, real quick, KP, the problem with what you're saying, Max, is this. Brooklyn's situation was of their own doing on 3 levels. Harden coming into camp out of shape because he wanted out of Houston, and ultimately that lingering hamstring injury, not being able to escape that. That had a lot to do with his condition. And I love Harden. I root for him, but that's a fact. Yep. Number 2, Kyrie Irving. All right, the ankle on all of that stuff might play a role, but remember, on at least couple of occasions. I'm not talking about the birth of his kid. I'm talking about two previous occasions. He just took time off. It wasn't specific as to why that was the case. And you had people wondering about him. And number 3, the hiring of Steve Nash. Love Steve Nash, respect the hell out of him. We know where I stand on his hire because he had absolutely no coaching experience whatsoever. Kyrie Irving was on the record saying we don't really need coaching because Kyrie Irving was thinking about Kyrie. He wasn't thinking about those other young players who could have used seasoned, experienced coaching.
Hey, real quick,
so when
Stephen
you look at Brooklyn, and you talk about what got in their way, I'm sorry, Max, they have a lot to do with what got in their way.
Valid. That's all. Everything you said is valid. What I'm saying is this upcoming season, you have all that information still. Who you taking in the East?
I'm taking Brooklyn.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And if you want to say now who you taking for the title?
Are you taking Brooklyn for the title? Yeah.
If CP3 goes to the Lakers, then I don't know who wins the title if everyone's healthy.
Well, here's the thing that we all got to be mindful of at this moment, right? With Milwaukee winning the championship and now James Harden being officially on the Nets, right? Because the trade happened during the season. This is going to be an interesting offseason. So teams are going to get better. Teams are going to make moves. Guys are going to relocate to different situations. And I think we're going to all be sitting back saying, man, because right now, if I'm a free agent or if I'm a guy on the outside looking in that's looking for a ring or looking for a place to go compete for a championship, look, Milwaukee Bucks are eye candy to me. Playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday is eye candy to me. So you just never know what could happen. Like, we just saw this with Golden State. We saw this with an organization who drafted Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. They won the title together from the ground up, from the foundation up. And what happened? They became eye candy, and they lured a guy like Kevin Durant. You just never know what could happen.
Mm-hmm. I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to win it all next year. I'm just saying. We'll be on the roof. We'll have the fans.
Went to the Lakers. What would you think?
I don't know. I don't see that happening. But that's just me. Guess what, Perk? You get a couple days off, then we'll see you out here for the draft. Thank you. The Suns failed to get the job done while Giannis took home the title. We'll get into more Giannis when we come back. But first, take a listen. I really like this guy. To Suns coach Monty Williams. Talk about class.
I just wanted to come and congratulate you guys as a man, as a coach. You guys deserve it, and I'm thankful for the experience. You guys made me a better coach. You made us a better team. Congratulations.
Look at that preacher.
Hey, let me help you.
Thanks, Tony. Doing his stuff. You better dig in.
To the greatest mom in the world.
When you order carry-out, choose Domino's Carside Delivery. Check in when you arrive, and we guarantee we'll be headed out the door less than 2 minutes after your order is ready. If anything slows us down, your next pizza is free. Choose Domino's Carside Delivery and put our new 2-minute guarantee to the test.
We love our new apartment. Plenty of parking, big closet.
There's too much pressure in the bathroom.
Hey, good luck with the future in-laws tonight.
Don't overthink it.
But don't underthink it.
Don't talk about your cover band. Don't talk about your fantasy team.
Don't talk about your cats.
You're going to do great.
At least Geico makes bundling our renters and car insurance easy.
We do save a lot of money.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy. Where are you going for dinner? 1987?
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
I got a lot of advice about my abdominal pain, diarrhea, and constipation.
High fiber diet.
Low fiber diet.
Go gluten-free.
None of it worked. Then I found New Culturelle IBS Complete Support, and now I have more symptom-free days.
Experience hybrid performance that takes you further at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event.
Get 0.9% APR financing on all 2021 Lexus hybrid models.
Experience amazing.
Here we go.
See Disney's Jungle Cruise. It's time to rock the boat, America.
Introducing Vizzy Lemonade, the only lemonade hard seltzer with antioxidant vitamin C. It just hits different. All new Vizzy Lemonade. step up your seltzer game.
New upgraded Axe body wash.
Hey, how you doing, baby?
Keeps you clean and smelling refreshed for 12 hours.
If you're living on borrowed time, do you have to return it?
Question everything. We did. The all-new Hyundai Tucson. Marvel Studios Loki. Original series now streaming.
Help keep your engine running like new with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus. Join the Fuel Rewards program and never pay full price for gas again. Save even more on fuel when you shop in our stores. Fill up, save up, and snack up at Shell.
Carl's Jr. and Hardee's.
Cool ranch chicken sandwich, know they bread it by hand. I'm gonna get my hands BLT ranch in my
There's
hand.
100% chance of a
Celebrate this summer with the new BLT Ranch hand-breaded chicken sandwich from Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Feed your happy.
Unlock a summer of possibilities in a new Chevy. Expand your options and your perspective. Find your next adventure in a new Chevy.
Make no monthly payments for the rest of the summer on all Silverado 1500 Crew Cab pickups. Plus, get 2.49% financing for 72 months. And get $2,750 total value on this Silverado All-Star Z71.
Rock every occasion with an innovative and stylish LG kitchen. Albert Lee Appliance. Bundle and save up to 10%.
We'll have the third game of a four-game series between the rival Cubs and Cardinals tonight, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right here on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app. One tap. It was just December when Giannis signed the Supermax to stay in Milwaukee, and now he's an NBA champion. The Greek Freak showed out, scoring 50, grabbing 14 boards and 5 blocks at age 26 and leading a young Bucks team. This might just be the start for Giannis. Stephen A., will Giannis win more titles with this Bucks team?
I think so. My answer would be yes. I think that, getting that proverbial monkey off your back, not that it really rained on him the way that it does on other players, but the fact that he got it done. You're a champion now, and that pressure is shredded from you. Another good shooting night last night, but find different ways to beat you, along with Bobby Portis and P.J. Tucker. I'm so happy for him. James Harden, Dwight Howard, CP3, Russell Westbrook, all departed from Houston looking for a crown. Even though Dwight got his last year, P.J. Tucker got his now. I'm really, really happy for him. When you look at what they have together and they're already a champion, pressure's no longer on them. That can make them even more lethal.
I don't see it. I think they'll be competitive. I agree with you about P.J. Tucker. P.J. Tucker and Brook Lopez are the right kind of fits on a team with Drew Holiday and Middleton. Everything fits very nicely at a certain level. And Giannis is a monster, but at a certain level. Stephen, I can't get over the memory of a Nets team without James Harden. Of all of the players on the Nets, the guy who to me made them impossible. I know you say KD. I said Harden played the best basketball of his career last year. I thought game for game was the best player in the league in both conferences. Without Harden, they were beating the brakes off the Bucks. An average margin of 20, 25 points. Without Harden? And then when the Bucks finally won a game, it was by a slim margin in a great defensive effort from the Nets. Again, no James Harden. And then no Harden or Kyrie, and Harden comes back. He's not himself, obviously. It gets to a game 7. If KD's foot's not on the line, if KD hits an open shot, they lose right there. Again, no Harden, no Kyrie. No real Harden, no Kyrie. If the Nets are healthy, the Bucks don't even have a chance next year. They don't have a chance. It's a blow. The Nets are so much better than the Bucks if they're healthy. I'm taking into account what you're saying about, hey, Kyrie's sometimes not there. Harden was whatever. But then even if they got past the Nets, Stephen A., they got to get past the Lakers, AD and LeBron. You can't just rely on injury every year.
Max Kellerman.
It's about a
question wasn't about next year. The question was, will Giannis win more titles in Milwaukee? He's 26. We don't know how long James Harden